Good day, everyone. Today we will journey through the vast and fascinating country of Russia, from its geography and diverse people to its deep rooted history and the structure of its government. Skip. Okay, let's skip that. So our goals today are: first is to understand key aspect of Russia, its land, people, history, and governance. Second is to reflect on how this knowledge can be applied in real-world context, such as in discussion about global politics and culture. So this presentation is divided into three main parts. First, we'll look at Russia's land and people. Second, we'll explore its complex and rich history. And lastly, we'll learn about how Russia is governed both historically and today. Okay, before we go to our proper discussion, so what is Russia, or how do you define Russia? Okay, so we have various definition of Russia. It depends on our perspective, but based on the book I've read, before that, this is the map of Russia. I know you are familiar with this. So as you all know, Russia is very vast, from culture to its land, from its geography. So based on the book I've read, Russia is the bear that walks like a man. So it is an expression frequently described Russia. So the bear, a huge, strong, clumsy animal, is the symbol with which Russia, a huge, strong, and often clumsy country, is most often associated. So Russia is often symbolized as a bear because it is a strong and powerful and sometimes unpredictable. The phrase "the bear that walks like a man" captures this image. Russia is not just a country, it's a cultural and geopolitical force. Okay, our first subtopic for today is about the land and its people. Okay, Russia is the world's largest country. So it is known for its history and diverse landscapes. So some of the most well-known landmarks in Russia is: first is the Red Square in Moscow, historic square and heart of the capital. Second is Saint Basil's Cathedral, or colorful iconic church in Moscow. Third is Lake Baikal, the world's deepest freshwater lake in Russia. Is very vast, from tundras to their topography, their waterways, or their culture. They are very rich. And Russia, when we talk about its geography, it spans 11 or 12 time zones. It's known for breathtaking landmarks, 'di ba? One of these is the well-known Saint Basil's Cathedral that is very colorful. As you see in the picture kaning mga onion domes, this is an example of their landmarks. Okay, again, here is the map of Russia. It has 11 or 12 time zones. Example, if the time of Moscow is 6 a.m., let's go to Vladivostok. So if it's 6 a.m. in Moscow, in Vladivostok it's 6 p.m. For it covers different time zones. Nga na siya ka vast. When we say Russia, it has different time zones, dili siya pareha sa Philippines. Okay, muning mga examples of their topographic features: mountains, steppes, tundras. There are so many topographical features in their waterways. Here are some of the example, which is very popular: the Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, and the Lake Baikal. So talking about the nationalities and ethnic groups in Russia. Okay, first is a nationality is a group of people who are united by common origin, language, and traditions. So the USSR or Russia is made up of many nationalities. We do not know the exact number, but there are as many as over 100 or maybe more. So there are three main groups of Slavs. First is the West Slavs in Poland and Czechoslovakia, the South Slavs in Yugoslavia and Bulgaria, and third, the East Slavs in the USSR. So the USSR promoted the idea of unity among these groups, although tensions often existed. Most Central Asians speak Turkic languages and follow Islam. Central Asian republics, the five republics in Soviet Central Asia are the Uzbek, Turkmen, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, and Tajik republics. Most of these people speak a Turkic language except for the Tajiks because their religion and their culture are Muslim and are similar to those in other Muslim countries. Most of these are shepherds or farmers. So talking about the language in Russia, of course their national language is Russian. Their national language is Russian, for they use it in their everyday life, and also in their talking about their media. They use the language Russia in newspaper or news or other medias. Talking about the religion of Russia, actually Russia doesn't have a national religion, for it is a communist country, but mostly people living in Russia is Catholic, which is Orthodox. Now let's go to the second topic, which is the Russian history. So the name Russia is derived from the Varangian word Rus, meaning ruddy or fair man. Russia history can be divided into five major periods, each revolving around a major city. First is Kiev, which is 90th 9th to 13th century. Sorry for that typo. Sarai, 13th to 16th century. Moscow, 16th to 18th century. St. Petersburg, 18th to 20th century. And then after 1917, Moscow again. Now let's go to the origin of Russia. So first, it started at the Carpathian Mountains located in Russia. They live in Carpathian Mountains, which is the Slavs. Kaning Slavs, when we talk about Slavs, these people are ethnic groups that lives in Europe. The thing is that naay mga military expansion during that time, which is ang mga Huns. Ang kaning mga Huns, they tend to fight to Carpathian Mountains to kanang para makuha nila ang land ditong area. And actually they gituyo to nila in order to scatter ang mga kaning mga Slavs. So let's go to the Varangians. Ang kaning mga mga nag-scatter naman sila, and one of these nga nag-scatter nga mga Slavs is taga Novgorod. Kaning taga Novgorod nag-adto din sila sa Dnieper River. Kaning Dnieper River Valley, of course, daplin siya sa sapa kasi ing anak man jud sa una. The more ka nga naay water source, the more pud nga taas og living condition. So here comes the problem. Naay mga Khazars. Kung kaning mga Khazars, they came from the Khazar Empire, obviously. So kaning taga Khazar, I don't know unsa na nga country ang ubos sa Caspian Sea. Yes. Ubos sa Caspian Sea karon, taga dira ang mga Khazars, and they tend to invade the area of Dnieper Valley. Gusto nila i-invade, and then ang kaning mga kaning mga Slavs nga dito na nagpuyo, it's okay na ilang life dito, nagpateri sila, nag-dressmaking and little nga trade to other countries, okay na kayo. Pero kaning mga mga Khazars, gusto nila nga i-invade to nga area, kabalo sila nga tsada to siya nga area, fertile ang land. So ang mga taga Novgorod, kanang kabalo sila nga dili sila maka-fight sa mga Khazars, kay ang mga Khazars kabalo sila nga in terms of military, kanang mga konjud sila kanang powerful. So ang gibuhat sa taga Novgorod, legend lang ni siya, there's no article about it. Ang ilang gibuhat, nagkuan sila sa mga Varangians, kaning Varangians or kaning mga Vikings. Kaning mga Vikings, when we say Vikings, these are mga merchant ni sila nga mga warrior. So ang gibuhat sa taga Novgorod, ilang giignan ang mga Vikings or Varangians nga anhi mo diri sa amo ang kayutaan, kay fertile ni, and we need policy nga we need something nga leader. So ang gibuhat sa taga mo ta ilang gibuhat. And then during that time, nakadaog sila because these merchant warriors are mga fair man ni sila, mga strong. Okay, so pag human na ato, nag-merge na din ang culture sa taga Novgorod o katong mga Vikings nga taga European. So dira na din nag-start ang mga Russian people, dira na din of course na ay acculturation and assimilation of cultures. Nagkuha na din ilang cultures, that's why na din beginning of Russian people. Okay, so na-establish na dayon ang Kiev, the first capital of Russia. So when Prince Vladimir of Kiev converted to Christianity in 1800s and introduced the religion to the Russian people, the Byzantine influence became evident in Russian art and architecture. The wall painting top is typical of the Byzantine style because it is more abstract and symbolic than realistic. Kaning kaning Kiev, this is the first capital of Russia, and this is the central of trade during that time. Even though dili siya part sa Silk Road, it has a very good trade, and then nilambot jud ang Kiev during that time. They trade to other empire or countries, especially the Byzantine. Ang kaning taga Byzantine, murag ila ding nadala ang culture nila didto, ang ilang religion. Of course, there is during this time na ay introduction of religion. And then kani si Prince Vladimir, iya din nagpabuhat din siya og kaning onion-shaped domes of Novgorods kaning sa Saint Sophia. So this is the evident nga na ay introduction of religion during that time. First is the Novgorod Saint Sophia sa left, and the Moscow Saint Basil's are also typical of Byzantine architecture. If you remember sa Byzantine Empire, na ay famous dito nga architecture, which is the Hagia Sophia. If you remember, diba, Hagia Sophia sa Byzantine Empire na siya, and then nakuha na siya nga architectural style or engineering style na nadala siya dito sa Russia. That's why na ng mga domes very famous in Russia. Okay, the second din nga sa capital of Russia, of course there are invasion. Japan mga ga-invade. So that's why malhin na po din sila og capital. So ang second nga capital sa Russia is the Sarai, which is the golden horde of Russia. So here is a map of Russia sa left, and sa right muna siya ang historical place sa Sarai. So Sarai was the capital of Golden Horde under the Mongol Empire. So from 13th to 16th centuries, Mongols heavily taxed Russian states and shaped Russian political systems. Although a time of hardship, it helped Moscow rise as the future center of power. So kaning Sarai, na invade na siya sa Mongolian Empire. And then during this nagkuan sila, naggrabe ilang tax dito sa Saray because of the Mongol kaning ilang mga policies and ordinance sa Mongol. And then ang tawag nila ani nga mga tax is called mirs and then angga. And then angga kuani sa mga mirs gikan siya sa mga farmers, agricultural sectors and sa market. Angga kuha din ani is angga collect sa mga tax is kaning mga boyars. So kaning mga boyars mura ni sila mga right-handed sa king or emperor. So sila ang collect sa tax, and then there is an economic downfall because kaning mga boyars. Okay, so kaning rise of Moscow, ang Moscow become Russia's new center of power, and there are key leaders like Ivan the First, Ivan the Third or Ivan the Great, and Ivan the Fourth or the Terrible. So they centralize authority. This period marked the beginning of autocracy in Russia. They are very important figures in Russia because naghinay-hinay na din og rise ang Russia during that time. And then sa time din ni Ivan the Terrible, there is a mild downfall sa economy, but nilahutay Japan ang ilahang empire or ang ilahang Tsar. And then next din sa line aning mga Ivans is si Peter the Great. So kaning Peter the Great's reforms, si Peter nagrule siya from 1696 to 1725, and then he westernized Russia, modernizing the military administration and even clothing. So he built St. Petersburg as a symbol of progress and European style governance. So during sa time ni Peter the Great, na bali na po din ang capital ito sa St. Peter, and then he modernized din nila ang ilang tsardom. He believed na kanang dapat sa isa ka lugar dapat kanang strong ang imong military in order nga to protect it and in order nga ma-expand it. So he go to Europe, and then nag-disguise ata siya as a student. Nag-disguise siya nga dito nga country, and then he study about military weapons making. And then pag human din ni Peter the Great, and then naay nagsunod nga mga sumusunod, and then here comes Catherine the Great and Imperial Russia. Catherine the Great brought Russia into a golden age of culture and nobility. Though she was German by birth, she became deeply Russian in identity. This was a time of wealth, expansion, and European-style art and philosophy. So if you notice, naay ka ng salida nga The Great ang title. If you watch that movie, tsada kayo na siya because it's not really the life of Catherine, but it's somewhat depict siya sa story ni Catherine. So nice kaya siya nga movie, and if you wanted to know more about Catherine, you can watch that movie because nice kayo siya. In 19th century sa Russia, there is a challenges and revolts. First is ang reforms. So it started to lose momentum. Events like the Crimean War, Decemberist Revolt, and growing peasant unrest signaled that change was needed. So revolutionary groups like the Narodniks and social revolutionaries began forming, planting seeds for bigger upheavals. So sa time na din is there is a unrest signal. There are so many wars. These are the famous events. Kaning mga examples sa screen. And then sa time na din ni Lenin and the Russian Revolution, kanina si Lenin is inspired by Marxist ideas or kay Karl Marx nga ideas. So na led din sa Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. So he ended Russia's involvement in World War I with the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which gave up territory but solidified Bolshevik power. So this led to a civil war and the eventual formation of the Soviet Union. How Russia is governed. So today Russia is a federal republic with a constitution that divides power into executive, legislative, and judicial branches. However, under the Soviet system, the Communist Party held total control. So institutions like the Politburo and Presidium made all decisions, and party members dominated all levels of government, education, and media. So kindly take note of this Politburo because this is very important. So to final thoughts, in summary, Russia's vastness is not just physical or geographical, it's also cultural and historical. From ancient Kiev, the first capital, to the Soviet era, Russia has experienced transformation after transformation, diba? Its history help us understand not just Russia, but also world politics and culture. So thank you for all your attention and participation. I hope this journey through Russia, people, history, and government give you deeper insight into the one of the world's most influential nations. Thank you for listening.